Greetings all, Shane Bruce, Restomod Daisy, and today we're going to be doing a brief update video about what's going on in the shop as we continue to manufacture, or excuse me, to reconfigure old classic Daisy products into new classic Daisy products. What we have on the bench right now is yet another low pivot Daisy model 111, number 111 model 40. And this gun is pretty representative of the condition I usually get these guns in. The finish on it wasn't bad. It's got some surface rust. It was a candidate to be converted over to a Restomod model 40/27. And to do that, you have to replace a lever and place a sliding spring block into the mechanism. Now, the neat thing about this gun is that, unlike other units I've processed in the past, the Latigo link, or the little loop here that holds the Latigo loop, did not survive. I don't know where it went, but this is something you'll see often on older Daisies. I like to call it the Google eyes. The metal ring that usually rides here, here we'll show you on this gun. The metal ring that rides there, because of the way they are normally stored, will be either in this position or in an up position. And contact with the surface metal on the old receiver has left these very serious circles, which gives the receiver Google eyes. It's not that important, but you will find that on older Daisies like this. Currently what we're doing with this particular gun is we have the rough lever installed. It hasn't been final profiled yet. We have a sliding spring block installed. We are waiting on our next supply of Daisy Model 25 shot tubes because, by George, I used them all. So there's no copper band on this gun yet because it's still got the gravity feed rattle trap shot tube installed in it. So mechanically, interior-wise, parts-wise, we've done everything we can do. So now we're working on fabricating a stock for this gun. Now, this is like an interim condition the stock is in. This would be considered, I call them blanks. They've been roughly formed, partially inletted. And this is what the stock blank looks like after I get it cut and glued up and trimmed. It's a rough indication that the gun will have the rollover cheek piece like all of the Model 40/27s have had, and will continue to have until I get tired of doing them and change the style to something else. So at one phase of assembly, you go from basically raw wood to rough cut pieces that are glued together. And because all of my stocks are glue ups, you'll notice they all have a seam that runs down the center line of the stock. Now, some people think that glue ups are not necessarily the greatest thing in the world. And, you know, if you can actually find 8/4 stock that you can afford to buy in Fiddleback Maple that runs true and looks good on both sides, more power to you. I've had difficulty, so I like glue up. The other thing I do like about glue up stocks is this layer of glue between these two layers of wood provide for an increased amount of stability in the wood. Daisy stocks are notorious because they're single plank stocks. They are notorious for cracking right along this line. And it's to be expected. They have rough lives. They get banged around and beat up a lot. And if you have a single plank of wood where the grain is running in this direction, sooner or later it's probably going to fail. And Red Riders, yeah, they get beat up, so they do fail. Now, with a glue-up stock, you'll have difficulty in making that happen because you have a glue seam between the two pieces of wood, and that'll help resist cracking. The other thing I like about glue-ups is you can take a highly figured piece of wood, and if you bookmark it, that's where you match the grain. If you bookmark it, pay a little bit of attention to it, you can actually enhance the way the stock's going to look. Take a look at that grain pattern. That's going to be so pretty when it's done. So, starts off nice and square and true. Currently, we'll spin around real quick and take a look at the bench, and you'll see that once it's on the bench, you have to do some markup so you know where you're cutting and how you're cutting and why you're cutting. And then you start the process of relieving or inletting the receiver. Because obviously a Daisy BB gun is not 2.5 inches thick or 2 inches thick. It's more like about 0.90 inch. So if you're smart when you start this process, you'll line out your work so you know what you got to do, and then stay inside the lines. It's kind of like, watercolors. or those old painting kits we used to get when we were kids. As long as you stay inside the line, it's probably going to be fairly presentable. So once this process is completed, then we'll actually go to the forming and shaping aspects. Those take time and generate quite a bit of dust and quite a bit of noise and quite a bit of unpleasantness. But let's go back to the bench. When you're done with all the noise and the unpleasantness, what you've got is a great gun that shoots well, looks good, and ain't nobody else in the neighborhood got one of. Well, that's it for today's video. Shane Bruce, Restomod Daisy, signing off.